Metroid Prime 4 is suffering from Breath of the Wild envy, and it also has a whole lot of these.
This is Bridget from Bridget's Never Played, and I've never played any Metroid game ever, so I was really, really excited to pick this one up. But today I'm here to talk about why does this one look like that? Why does it look like that? It looks a certain way, and we all know that it looks a certain way.
Metroid Prime 4 was a big event for the Nintendo community. Being a Switch owner and following Nintendo Directs, even as a non-fan, you could really feel the energy explode on Reddit and on YouTube when even the tiniest bit of information was announced. I can remember the understanding but devastation when the game was delayed yet again, completely scrapped with the promise of something really big coming. So once we finally had a release date, it was hard to not be completely rejoicing with the true fans, the long-term fans. I never really had much interest in this series other than just respecting Samus as a gamer girl icon, and also loving Zero Suit Samus in Smash Bros. I actually never really expected to pick this game up.
But when November came, I was really kind of craving a more serious game. That's no offense to Pokemon, that is no offense to Kirby, I love you both. But since I got my Switch 2, I feel like some of the big titles I played through were like
Kirby in the Forgotten Land, which I played for the first time on Switch 2, Pokemon Legends ZA, which I was so excited for, and I sunk hours into Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar.
So by the time Metroid was coming out, I was definitely sort of, I hope this doesn't sound silly, but craving something with a little more bite, a little more edgy, and I actually haven't played an FPS in a really long time.
When we saw that trailer with a cool motorcycle and a big open landscape, it definitely got my attention. I was coming off the high of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and Pokemon Legends Arceus, having just lived through that thrill of exploring big maps. I'm not gonna lie, the idea of another huge open world to sink hours into was really appealing. And I'm sure that's exactly what Nintendo wanted. The old fans were going to buy this title no matter what, so now you need all the Switch players and the Switch 2 early adopters on board. You need to manage to make both veteran players and new players happy. Zelda did it. When you first boot up the game and you're in the middle of that big battle, it's thrilling. And even when the action stops, you're deep in Fury Green with absolutely breathtaking visuals and sound. It's eerie, it's alien, and it's gorgeous. The artists put their heart and soul into drawing you in, and the music makes you feel tense and bewildered at the same time.
And then Miles shows up, but like honestly, you can tune him out. He's around a lot in the beginning and then he goes away. So he's really not that bad. I just wish someone had told them to leave the quippy Tumblr humor in the 2010s.
And even when you get to Chrono Tower, that feeling of mystery and excitement just resonates. Despite Chrono Tower not having natural beauty to draw from, the artist clearly put a lot of love and visual symbolism into it, taking a lot of visual inspiration from artists like Georgia O'Keeffe and sci-fi designers like H.R. Geiger.
And I think we all had quite the laugh at how much of a double take any adult player is going to take. And I did see some people online complaining that they felt that these artistic decisions were a little bit too on the nose and maybe, for lack of a better term, flaunting it in our face that our protagonist is a woman.
Oh, are we serious right now?
But I don't agree that they're throwing it in our faces at all. I think part of what makes Samus such a great example of a woman in gaming is that, at least from what I've seen in this game, her gender does not matter at all. It's almost treated just like a cool background detail, kind of like the art design in Chrono Tower. If you notice, it's a pretty cool celebration of girl power, and if you don't notice, well, you don't really have to.
So the game is only just booted up and we've had these lush landscapes and inspired alien towers, and the player is really excited. You get slapped on a motorcycle and dropped in the middle of the striking desert, ready for the next beautiful forest or freaky obelisk, and you get sand. Okay, surely if you keep driving, you'll find some ruins or a temple or an alien oasis. there's some crystals and some crates here and there, but mostly it's sand. It's a Volt Forge, and it's atmospheric and spooky and intimidating, and there's levels and mazes and big ramps for your bike, and then you leave, and it's sand. Oh, look, there's a shrine that you can't actually get into yet. Okay, surely you'll find a bunch more, and there's a couple, there are, and while they're neat, you can't go and complete them right away. Most of the time, anyway. It actually takes a little while for anything in this desert to be plot relevant, rewarding, or accessible. I just don't see how delayed gratification was the best choice here. Okay, well, a hub world doesn't need to be exciting. It's more meant to connect the dungeons and more interesting areas, and there must be a bunch. Oh no, there's 6. Okay, but only 6 noticeable things on this big, big map? When you're actually in the dungeons, they're amazing. The game devs put their all into making each of these a joy, and you go back and revisit them a lot. Like, a lot. That seems to be a classic characteristic of Metroid that the devs wanted to hold on to.
And I wouldn't mind all this backtracking, all this fast travel-less backtracking, if Soul Valley was actually interesting to traverse through. They created these amazing environments that are so thematically interesting and artistically strong. And then it feels like right at the end of development, they threw in Soul Valley rather than just letting those environments be connected to each other. And it does feel like they threw it in because they were thinking that that was what the newcomers were expecting. They were expecting a transition to this semi-open world because of the open world that we got so attached to in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and even things like Pokemon Legends.
It's like they thought what people loved about Tears of the Kingdom was the fact that you could drive around in cars, not the fact that you had to use creativity and that there was diversity in the type of car you could make, and there were actually destinations that you could reach on your new weird flying machine. And insisting on this huge, kind of dull hub, the game needed to throw in more directions and more hints from Miles, something that the veteran players found really annoying and handholdy, whereas the new players are kind of just wondering what our next quest is supposed to be. Like, I have this massive map, and the game is seriously telling me to go back to the same environment that I was already in about 4 times? I get that that's classic Metroid, but that just feels really weird here. And the result is a loyal fan base that feels like they didn't get the Metroid that they were looking for, and a new audience that's kind of wondering what they're all fussing about, all the while spending a really unfortunate amount of time in the game vaguely bored. Not the majority of the time, but it's a notable amount of time that you're just driving around the desert. And I think these mixed reviews really prove my point.
The visuals and puzzles of the 6 main hubs really make up for this, but it doesn't lead to the most addicting gameplay loop when you know that as soon as you leave those hubs, what you're in for is kind of just desert simulator. Once you figure out that there's nothing actually between Volt Forge and Fury Green or Ice Belt and Chrono Tower, the transitions between those areas almost sort of feel like commuting to a concert. You know that you're in for something fun, but you're not necessarily looking forward to the ride there. And honestly, you're probably just trying to do it as quickly as possible.
Why insist on this Breath of the Wildification in the first place? Obviously to attract people to the franchise, and clearly it worked.
I'm here. I am the newcomer that they attracted. But the game feels bogged down by having this big open world, and the parts of this game that I'm really loving and finding myself really attached to are those, OG traditional Metroidisms. The puzzles, the neat environments, the funky enemies, all of Samus's gadgets. Nothing about this open world is fun.
I was thinking about how when I picked up Pikmin 3, I fell in love with that series based on its own merits, and now then I played Pikmin 4.
You can tell that the love and care and design in this game really went into the puzzles, action, and environments. I have a feeling that I would have picked up Metroid anyway, just based on the excitement surrounding the title. And also my desire to have something a little bit more action oriented and mature. But I wish they had just trusted Samus a little bit more.